In a case that has captivated the world, the deaths of Hollywood legend Gene Hackman, his wife Betsy Arakawa, and their beloved dog have become even more mysterious. With authorities remaining tight-lipped and new details emerging, we're learning that even the identification of their dog may have been wrong. Was this just a mistake, or is there something more sinister at play? And how could the death of their dog provide a key to unlocking this investigation? This revelation about the dog's misidentification raises more questions about the timeline of events, especially since the cause of death is still unknown. Was it an accident, natural causes, or could there be a deeper connection? In this video, we'll dive into the discovery of the bodies, the misidentification of the dog, the challenges investigators face due to a lack of evidence, and the digital forensics that could hold the answers. Stick around as we break down what we know and what we still need to uncover. The deaths of Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa have left the world in shock. As a Hollywood legend, Hackman was one of the most respected actors of his generation, known for iconic roles in films like The French Connection, Hoosiers, and Unforgiven. His performances earned him 2 Academy Awards, a Golden Globe, and numerous other accolades, solidifying him as one of the finest actors of his time. Hackman's career spanned over 4 decades, and he was beloved for his portrayal of complex characters, both in action films and dramas. His contributions to cinema are immeasurable, making his death all the more tragic. However, Hackman's life after retirement was just as fascinating, though far more private. After stepping away from Hollywood in the early 2000s, he and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico. There, they lived a life away from the public eye, embracing a more secluded lifestyle. Hackman, at 95 years old, reportedly struggled with health issues in recent years, with friends and family noting his deteriorating condition. Arakawa, who was 30 years younger than Hackman, had been taking care of him during this time, keeping him active and engaged through activities like yoga. Despite their fame, they kept their lives private, rarely appearing in the media or even publicly, adding an element of mystery to their later years. Hackman and Arakawa were married in 1991, and their life together seemed stable, though somewhat isolated. While Hackman had 3 grown children from a previous marriage, he was reportedly not in regular contact with them in his final months. Similarly, Arakawa hadn't spoken to her mother for several months before her death. Despite their fame and connections, they kept themselves largely removed from the public eye, which has made their deaths even more enigmatic. The couple's sudden and unexplained deaths on February 26, 2025, have raised many questions. They were found in separate rooms of their mansion, with no immediate signs of foul play, and nothing appeared disturbed in their home. No one could have predicted that their deaths would spark such a complex and ongoing investigation. As investigators continue to search for answers, the mystery deepens. On February 26, 2025, a maintenance worker arrived at the home of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa for a routine check. What he found would shock the world. Hackman, Arakawa, and their beloved dog were all found dead in the mansion, their bodies discovered in separate rooms. Hackman's body was located in the mudroom, with his cane and sunglasses by his side, while Arakawa was found in the bathroom. One of their dogs was discovered nearby, in a closet, and 2 other dogs were found alive on the property. There were no obvious signs of external injuries on the body, and the home appeared undisturbed, leading investigators to rule out burglary or a violent struggle. At first, the cause of death was unclear, and one of the early theories that emerged was carbon monoxide poisoning. The deaths of all 3, Hackman, Arakawa, and their dog, seemed to align with the symptoms of CO poisoning, prompting speculation that a gas leak could have been the culprit. However, after thorough testing by the local gas company, it was revealed that while there was a small stove burner leak in the house, it wasn't large enough to cause fatal levels of carbon monoxide. This ruled out the poisoning theory, but left the authorities with even more questions. As the investigation continued, the autopsy results raised more questions than answers. Neither Hackman nor Arakawa showed signs of trauma or external injuries, which further suggested that their deaths were not the result of foul play. The authorities also reported that the couple's dog showed no immediate signs of violence or injury, adding to the mystery. Toxicology tests were ordered and more enigmatic, but they take time, and the cause of death remained undetermined. At this point, it was clear that something far more complicated was at play than a simple accident or natural causes. Adding to the puzzle, Hackman's pacemaker had recorded its last event 9 days before their bodies were discovered. This raised the question of whether the couple could have been dead for several days before anyone realized, deepening the mystery surrounding the timeline of their death. Investigators now had to piece together a timeline, relying on the evidence from the pacemaker data, the dog's condition, and other clues. But with so many unanswered questions, the case seemed to stall. On February 26, 2025, the discovery of Gene Hackman, his wife Betsy Arakawa, and their dog's bodies at their Santa Fe mansion shocked the world. The maintenance worker, who arrived at the home for a routine check, stumbled upon a scene that would unravel more questions than answered. Hackman, at 95 years old, and Arakawa, his 65-year-old wife, were found in separate rooms. Hackman's body was discovered in the mudroom, positioned near his cane and sunglasses, with no signs of struggle or external injury. Arakawa was found in a bathroom, lying on the floor. Their beloved dog was found dead nearby, in a closet, while 2 other dogs were discovered alive on the property. It seemed an eerie coincidence that the deaths of all 3, the legendary actor, his wife, and their dog, happened under such strange circumstances. Upon initial inspection, there were no obvious signs of foul play or external trauma. The house appeared undisturbed, and nothing of value was missing, ruling out the possibility of burglary or violent altercation. The couple had no known enemies, and Hackman was largely retired from the public eye, making it even more perplexing. Investigators initially speculated that carbon monoxide poisoning could be the cause, as it could explain why all 3 died in the same house. The initial thought was that a gas leak in the home might have led to the poisoning. The theory seemed plausible, given that carbon monoxide poisoning can occur in enclosed spaces without obvious symptoms, and it affects both humans and animals in a similar way. However, after further testing by the local gas company, the theory of carbon monoxide poisoning was ruled out. The gas company's investigation found a small leak in a stove burner, but it wasn't substantial enough to cause fatal levels of carbon monoxide. The discovery put the case back to square one, with no clear explanation of what happened. The authorities had no choice but to continue their investigation, focusing on other potential causes of death. The autopsy results eventually came in, but they only deepened the mystery. The autopsies of both Hackman and Arakawa revealed no signs of trauma, violence, or injury, further ruling out foul play. There were no signs of carbon monoxide poisoning either, and initial tests didn't reveal any toxic substances in their bodies. No traces of drugs, poisons, or alcohol were found, which further complicated the cause of death. The dog's condition was also under examination. It was discovered near Arakawa's body, and there were no apparent signs of trauma or injury. The dog's health and cause of death were crucial pieces of the puzzle. Authorities were unable to determine immediately whether the dog had died due to natural causes, health issues, or if it could somehow be linked to the couple's deaths. At first, the dog was believed to be a German Shepherd, but it was later discovered that it was actually a 12-year-old Australian Kelpie named Xena. This misidentification was a minor but intriguing detail that raised questions about the thoroughness of the initial investigation. The mystery deepened with the discovery of Gene Hackman's pacemaker data, which played a critical role in the timeline of events. Hackman's pacemaker had recorded its last event 9 days prior to the discovery of the bodies. The pacemaker, which typically tracks heart activity, had stopped functioning well before the bodies were discovered, suggesting that Hackman and Arakawa may have died much earlier than initially thought. This discovery raised numerous questions. Why did it take so long for anyone to notice? Had the couple been dead for days before being found, or were they still alive when the pacemaker recorded its last event? The fact that the pacemaker was still transmitting data 9 days after the event suggested a significant gap between the time of death and the moment they were discovered. While the pacemaker provided an important clue, the investigation still had many missing pieces. Investigators had no clear idea of the exact cause of death, and even the dog's condition provided only limited information. The lack of surveillance cameras at the home, a home which was described as private and secluded, made it even more difficult for authorities to piece together a timeline of events. Hackman and Arakawa's decision to live in such a private, reclusive manner left no clear trail behind them. This made it difficult for law enforcement to track any unusual activity or behavior leading up to their deaths. The lack of cameras, doorbell surveillance systems, or any type of monitoring device meant there was little information to establish when the deaths difficult for law enforcement to track any unusual activity or behavior leading up to their deaths. The lack of cameras, doorbell surveillance systems, or any type of monitoring device meant there was little information to establish when the deaths actually occurred. Without such data, the authorities were forced to rely on physical evidence, like the pacemaker data, the state of the bodies, and other limited clues to reconstruct the events. As investigators moved forward, they were left with numerous theories, but no solid leads. Theories ranged from the possibility of natural causes, like stress-induced cardiac events, to the idea that foul play might have been involved, though there was no clear evidence of that. The autopsies, combined with the gas investigation and the dog's health, only left investigators more puzzled. No obvious medical cause was found, and no external trauma was present. Authorities had to wait for the toxicology results, which would take weeks or even months to come back. In the meantime, law enforcement focused on gathering as much information as they could from the couple's digital footprint, including their cell phones. These phones, which were taken from the house, could hold vital clues about the couple's final moments. If Hackman and Arakawa were in contact with anyone leading up to their deaths, the cell phones could help establish a timeline and provide context to their mysterious deaths. Unfortunately, without surveillance footage or consistent communication, piecing together the final hours of their lives seemed increasingly difficult. As investigators continued to probe deeper, they faced multiple challenges: the lack of clear evidence, the absence of critical surveillance footage, the long wait for autopsy and toxicology results, and the misidentification of key evidence, such as the dog's identity. Despite these difficulties, the case remained open, and authorities were committed to finding answers. As the investigation into the deaths of Gene Hackman, Betsy Arakawa, and their beloved dog continues, new developments continue to emerge, adding complexity to the already mysterious case. One of the most recent revelations came from a whistleblower who leaked information regarding love letters supposedly found buried in the backyard of the Hackman estate. According to this source, the letters were written by Clint Eastwood to Betsy Arakawa and had been hidden away by Hackman himself. These letters have not been publicly disclosed by authorities, and the details surrounding them remain shrouded in secrecy. The existence of these love letters raises intriguing questions. Why were they buried in the backyard? Could this suggest a deeper issue between Clint Eastwood and Hackman? Did Hackman know about a secret relationship between his wife and the famous actor? These questions are at the heart of the new theories surrounding the case. The love letters are believed to have been buried by Hackman sometime before his death. The whistleblower, who has remained unnamed, claims that the letters were written in passionate language, possibly suggesting an affair between Eastwood and Betsy Arakawa. If true, this revelation could explain some of the emotional tension that might have been present in the Hackman household in the days leading up to their deaths. It could also explain why Hackman buried the letters. Was he trying to keep a painful secret from surfacing, or was there a more significant reason for hiding the letters from the public eye? The question of why Hackman chose to keep such intimate and potentially explosive evidence hidden adds a new layer to the mystery. The love letters themselves could point to a much deeper and darker side to Hackman and Arakawa's relationship, one that had remained hidden for years. If Hackman discovered the affair, could this have led to a confrontation between him and Eastwood? Or perhaps, could the emotional tension between the couple have contributed to the stress that led to their deaths? It's possible that these letters contain information that might shed light on the strain within their marriage and provide crucial insight into what happened in the days leading up to their deaths. The question remains, why were these letters hidden? And what did Hackman know about the relationship between his wife and Eastwood? In addition to the buried love letters, there is another critical piece of the puzzle: Hackman's pacemaker data, which recorded its last event 9 days before the couple's bodies were discovered. The pacemaker data could play a significant role in determining the timeline of events leading to their deaths. Hackman's pacemaker was transmitting data, but it had stopped recording 9 days prior to the discovery of the bodies, which raises several important questions. Was Hackman dead before the pacemaker stopped functioning? And if so, why didn't anyone notice sooner? Could there have been a delayed discovery of the bodies, or was there a reason the pacemaker failed to alert doctors about Hackman's heart failure? This long gap between the last pacemaker event and the discovery of the bodies creates a new layer of uncertainty in the case. Investigators will need to piece together the available data to determine when the couple actually passed away. This might be particularly difficult given that Hackman and Arakawa were reclusive, living far from their families and avoiding public attention. With little access to their personal communications or daily activities, authorities must rely heavily on physical evidence, medical records, and digital forensics to construct a timeline. As investigators search for answers, there are more potential clues in the form of the couple's medications and the dog's condition. Hackman's pacemaker and the medical records collected from the home could help determine whether health issues played a role in their deaths. Authorities discovered that medications such as Tylenol, thyroid medication, and heart medication were found in the house. It's unclear whether these were taken by Hackman, Arakawa, or both, but they raise questions about the couple's health and whether any underlying medical conditions might have contributed to their deaths. Hackman's advanced age and reported health decline, particularly in the months leading up to his death, are significant factors in understanding the possible causes of his passing. For Arakawa, her unexpected death raises additional concerns. Could it have been linked to stress, health problems, or something more sinister? Furthermore, the dog's health and condition are also significant. The dog that was found dead in the bathroom closet, a rigid bear, was later identified as the couple's 12-year-old Australian Kelpie, Xena. The cause of Xena's death is still under investigation, but this misidentification raises important questions about the timeline of events. Xena was found near Arakawa's body, which could suggest that the dog died either shortly before or after its owners. The condition of the dog's body, compared to Hackman and Arakawa's bodies, could provide valuable insights into when the deaths occurred. If the dog had died earlier, it could indicate that the couple had passed away sometime before they were discovered, possibly days earlier, which aligns with the pacemaker data. The involvement of digital forensics, particularly with the couple's cell phones, will be critical in piecing together the timeline. Investigators will focus on examining phone activity, texts, and location data to try and understand when the deaths occurred and whether there were any signs of foul play. These phones could also hold important information about who Hackman and Arakawa were in contact with during their final days, including any possible communications with Clint Eastwood, who might have played a more significant role in their lives than previously known. The whistleblower's information regarding the love letters and the potential affair with Clint Eastwood is just one of the many mysteries surrounding the deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa. As the investigation unfolds, it becomes clear that the couple's deaths were not as simple as they first appeared. With the involvement of digital forensics, medical records, and the buried letters, this case is set to reveal more startling information in the coming weeks and months. As authorities continue to investigate and piece together the truth, the public remains on edge, waiting for answers that could expose the full scope of the mystery. The mystery surrounding Gene Hackman, Betsy Arakawa, and their dog has taken an even more intriguing turn as investigators now focus on the digital aspects of the case. The absence of surveillance cameras, which is highly unusual for a property of that size, has made it more difficult to track movements or interactions at the Hackman estate. This lack of surveillance footage has been a significant challenge, especially given that Hackman and Arakawa had been living in seclusion for months before their deaths. Hackman, a private figure in his later years, had no presence on social media, and there were no indications that they were regularly in contact with others. The couple's reclusive lifestyle raises important questions about how to piece together the timeline of events leading to their deaths, especially without critical digital footprints that could have helped investigators. With no cameras or Ring doorbells capturing video footage, authorities have had to rely on other sources to piece together the puzzle. Fortunately, the authorities seized 2 cell phones from the Hackman estate, which could hold vital information. These phones may contain text messages, emails, call logs, and location data that could provide important clues regarding Hackman and Arakawa's final moments. The cell phones also offer the potential to uncover conversations that may have taken place just days before their deaths, helping to determine their emotional and physical states at the time. Investigators are hoping to use this information to establish whether the couple had any unusual contacts leading up to their deaths or if there were signs of foul play.